Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanne and I'm going to start off with a rant. Yes, Joe's rant. I should just call it Joe's rant. I don't have a lot planned. I have found a few stories. So I've got a Donald Trump story. I've got a story from Poland. I've got something on IBAC. I've got something on Prince Harry. Something on Perrottet, Sky's news article about Daniel Andrews' unlimited pandemic powers. So I've got a few things, and I've got a few things to show on Twitter. But yeah, I don't have a lot. And yes, I missed Paul Keating today, I was really quite sad, but I have to sleep. However, so here is my rant. Yes, I know I'm going to use Sky News. I know. Shoot me. No. My rant. This is a t-shirt, a high-vis t-shirt. Do you know how hard it is to find ladies' workwear? Big W is my closest department, low-cost department store. Like, I've got a job for 8 weeks. I'm not wanting to spend hundreds of dollars on clothing that I'm only going to wear for 8 weeks, potentially. But they have a workwear section and it's all men's. Even where I'm working, the clothes are designed for men, not women. If you're going to have women work in and need, now Kmart does actually have women's stuff. Hello. However, it's more expensive. So that's my rant. That's my rant. Joe's rant. I've already messed up the timestamp. Your Big W store's over 2 hours away. Yeah, I've got a Big W that's my closest one. But yeah, I had to go in and say, do you have, Vizzy? Pink tax. Yeah. Oh, well, I swear that happens. Wow. Oh, really? Wow. 2 men missing in Perth. You also had, didn't you have a shark attack last week as well? Did that the person died, didn't they, from the shark attack? It's suspected shark attack. Okay. And I think there was somebody wasn't there a border breach as well in Eucla? See, I read some stuff and sometimes it just doesn't go through my brain. I read it and I go, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm on top of I'm on top. Katie Joy's had a manic. Well, she's pulled out lots of videos today, but she did make a statement to say that she filed a motion to dismiss. But that's all that we know, and that it's publicly available. So I'm assuming somebody's going to get those documents at some point. Hello, Bo. How are you? Okay, so we'll start off with the border breach, the WA border breach, because WA has a hard border. WA is one of the hardest states to get into. And it looks like they're going to close the border very quickly. So I don't know when they're looking to open the border, but they're not in a hurry to do it. You're tired but good? Yeah, I mean, this is actually my first full week of night shift, and I've realised it's hit me. I've got 2 nights to go. WA going lock up, more business. So teen and passenger 24 arrested after alleged high-speed UCLA border breach. So a teenage driver and his passenger allegedly have attempted to return to Western Australia from New South Wales after Monday's dramatic high-speed border chase will face court. Police, the 17-year-old driver is a WA resident who was attempting to return to the state by road from New South Wales via Victoria and South Australia. Now, New South Wales and Victoria have been red zones. He applied for the G2G pass multiple times but was restricted after failing to meet the threshold to be granted entry from an extreme risk location. So Victoria and New South Wales have been known as an extreme risk location. The team was then granted a G2G pass in an application made the day prior to the boarding crossing, but was approved based on the information that suggested he'd been in South Australia for the previous 14 days. So if you want to get into WA, you actually have to be in a low-risk state for 14 days from a high-risk state. So if he'd spent 14 days in South Australia, then he could go to WA, go back to Western Australia. The guys that are in jail that went to the AFL Grand Final, they said they had been in Northern Territory for 14 days, but they're in jail. So police said the teen and his 24-year-old passenger arrived on the WA-SA border COVID checkpoint in UCLA about 4:25 on November 8, with information that suggested he had in fact been in New South Wales and Victoria in the past 14 days. His G2G pass was rejected and the pair were refused entry into Western Australia. The car returned to the boarding crossing 2 hours later when the police alleged it was driven through the checkpoint at high speed, failing to stop for officers. The car was later found 20 kilometres east of Norseman and the occupants arrested before being tested for COVID-19. The driver and the passenger each faced 3 counts of failing to comply with the direction under the Emergency Management Act. The 24-year-old is due to appear in Kalgoorlie's Magistrate Court on November 10, and the 17-year-old is due to appear in Perth Children's Court on November 23rd, 2021. So there you go. So don't try to get into WA is the moral of the story. But I think they've lowered I think it's not extreme risk. It's a serious. I think that they've still lowered it. Yes, I also read that the police officers involved in the rescue of Cleo are getting honours, which I guess for them they would say that was part of their job, but it was, I don't know. Do people that have done their job deserve recognition like that? I don't know. What do you reckon? Should they get honours? Because what about for all the ones that they're working on that they haven't rescued, I guess, is the other thing, Don't know. Just on a totally different thing. There's a Victorian MP here. So he's a Torquay local. He construction worker turned to Animal Justice Party MP. So he's Animal Justice Party for Western Victoria. He has tweeted, "My family have been threatened with being shot and my kids kidnapped. Lately, my staff removed their passes on their way into work so they can't be identified. We are strong and so is my family, but it is impacting us. I welcome feedback and thoughts, but not like this." So this is one of the letters sent to our office this week. Some are threatening, some are sick, all of them wrong. My boss puts on a brave face, but I'll say it. We're struggling. Everyone has a right to voice their opinions to pollies, but not like this. I'm not going to read it because it's vile. It is vile. It is vile and disgusting. And look, nobody deserves to have mail sent like that. I think it's disgusting, and I'm assuming you can all read it. I'm assuming you can read it, but it's disgusting and vile, and I just don't think that anybody should have to put up with that. So he, as I said, he's from the Animal Justice Party. So what do you think about in my view, that's sick what he was saying. Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing. That was one of the points. I think one of the Sky News people actually told them there's actually, if we would look down the Twitter thread a bit more, there is allegations of, hello, Justin, how are you? Wow, it's good to see you. Yay. If media should not be riling people up to do stuff like that. As I said, that type of mail is disgusting and foul. So let's look at my fave creator. Yeah, oh, thank you, Justin. Hello. We were just talking about a Victorian politician that just had some hate mail sent to them, and about their transgender kids, which I don't agree with. If you've got issues with a person, you don't attack the kids. I'm glad to see you back. You'll notice that you've still got your wrench, Dom. I haven't taken it away. I'm always waiting for you to come back. So Perrottet, the New South Wales Premier, intimately involved, Premier under attack over controversial $40 billion rail entity. He's in a little bit of hot water again. Well, that's correct too. All right. You've been busy unpacking. So Dominic Perrottet is under fire after it emerged he was at a high-level meeting that sealed the fate of a controversial $40 billion rail corporation, despite warnings it should be dismantled over safety and financial concerns. The meeting in September last year to discuss the future of Transport Asset Holding Entity included Mr. Perrottet, the then Premier Gladys Berejiklian, and one of New South Wales' most public servants, Treasurer Secretary Mike Pratt. Emails tabled in Parliament as part of an inquiry into the rail corporation, sparked by the Herald investigation, revealed Ms. Berejiklian was unequivocal at the meeting that the TAHE will go ahead and that everyone was well across the challenges but also imperative. Former KPMG partner Brendan Lyon told the inquiry on Monday that he was humiliated, bullied and discredited by a so-called hit squad that included Mr. Pratt when he refused to change a report that warned of safety risks, and that the state budget would be more than $10 million worse off than Treasury claimed. Labor's Treasury spokesman Daniel Muke, said the email in September last year detailing the meeting made it clear that Mr. Perrottet was intimately involved in Treasury's efforts to force Mr. Lyon to change the report. Treasury Secretary Mike Pratt's presence at this meeting with Mr. Perrottet, the Treasurer at the time, and Barrett Jiggling shows that Treasury was winning the TAHE civil war inside the New South Wales government, he said. Mr. Perrottet's explicit backing gave license to the Treasury to continue their extraordinary campaign to force changes to Mr. Lyon's report. So this, we can read the full, shall we read the full document? In question time on Tuesday, Mr. Perrottet defended the Treasury Secretary as a person of high integrity, but he also had directed the Department at Premier and Cabinet to contact Mr. Lyon to invite him to formally lodge a complaint following the allegations he had made under parliamentary privilege. Oh, parliamentary privilege again. Woohoo! Mr. Perrottet said his government took such allegations very seriously, and if a formal complaint was received, the Department Secretary would ensure that an appropriate process was followed and all parties accorded natural justice. Mr. Lyon is a former Liberal staffer for Joe Hockey and Bruce Baird and a long-time Chief Executive Infrastructure Partnership Australia. He remains the Director of Infrastructure Financing Fund of Foreign Affairs and Trade. You made me laugh, Dom, Mr. Mario. Yes, it did. Yes, Mr. Mario did give up. But he's taken on Google. I mean, he dumped he dumped the small guy and's taken on the big corporation. Mr. Perrottet also rejected Labor's claims that the TAHE was a budget deception and any suggestion that safety was compromised was a result of the corporation being established was unfounded. So Mr. Hunter's email on the 13th of September last year detailing the meeting noted that Mr. Pratt agreed Treasury needed to take the lead from Transport for New South Wales and the THE rail entity. I indicated it was not helpful for Brendan to be holding the pen on these documents, running consultations and then having all parties criticise. Earlier that day, Mr. Pratt told Mr. Lyon in an email, this is not about whether we do or do not progress. We are. Ooh, look, we got emails. So let's have a look. So this is an extract of subject Cabinet in confidence. So here is we deferred last week's COGC with several matters outstanding and need a full COGC to be in attendance. We'll confirm the dates this week. I know Brendan ran a number of TAHE operating model debrief sessions late last week with Paul in attendance of some as well. Working in Treasury on Thursday, had a face-to-face meeting with Stan and Mike, further discussions with Stan on Friday, and Mike called this evening as well. I've also spoken with Joel, David, Andrew, Paul on Friday. I don't know who these people are. This note outlines the summary of key feedback and recommended steps and agreed with David, Paul, Mike. So Premier meeting. On Friday, a meeting with the Premier, Treasurer, Secretary of DPC and Secretary of Treasury attending. TAHE was discussed. Everyone was well across the challenges, but also imperative. The Premier was unequivocal that TAHE will go ahead, as was Tim. Both wanted to accelerate work, including the ERC sub. This isn't a surprise. We always expected strong endorsement and resolve to proceed with the government's approach to finalise. So Mike indicated Bruce Morgan and the TAHE board will be more involved in the weeks ahead. I indicated we need to change the approach of TFNSW, leading and writing, others reviewing and criticising file notes and reports. San also agreed we would discuss with Fiona and Anne. San had just sent me a text indicating he wanted to discuss this tomorrow AM. I'm in TSY 52MP, so we'll be F2F. Mike also agreed we need to change the approach. We'll discuss with Sam. This is positive. I indicated it was not helpful for Brendan to be holding the pen on these documents, running consultations and then having all parties criticise. We need everyone to agree section by section and have working groups on each with joint leads. This approach will be defined and shared this week depending on the ERC date confirmed. We have limited time to draft fund lists to submit through the TYS DPC processes. I reinforced to both Sam and Mike this evening we have the most knowledgeable and experienced team involved in TAHG. So this was the other extract here. So it's all the senior partners of the email. You obviously have a partner who refuses to take counsel and is out of control. As you're aware, we engaged KPMG earlier this year to provide fiscal and accounting advice that is now concluded in support of the TAFE work. That work provides the basis for Treasury advice. I expect you to take action. Mike, I am sick of being bullied by you. Grow up or tell the truth. Up to you. Wow. Brendan, this needs your urgent attention. You either correct the errors or remove all references to Treasury's model, which is not for you to comment. Please revert ASAP as this matter needs urgent attention, urgent resolution. So, question to me, from what I'm seeing, there was bullying involved. You don't say you either correct the errors or remove the references. That's bullying. And he says, I'm sick of being bullied by you. Grow up or tell the truth. And then so the guy then goes and writes to KPMG and said, you obviously have a partner who refuses to take counsel and is out of control. Wow. They're pretty damning emails. Wow, the bullying that's involved. Look, Bruz is going to have to. Bruz's wife, I think, is living in the property. I think so. Yeah. Hello, Peter. I just saw you come in as well. Tell it how it is. Well, that's right. I mean, the guy says, I'm not going to be bullied by you. Well, and then the guy goes, well, I'm going to go tell your bosses because you've stood up to me. Oh dear. I wonder whether he sold his batchy pad. This isn't a really interesting story, actually. This is a very interesting story. I'm wondering, because I have the most intelligent people on the most intelligent community, I know that you're going to give the right answer. So this is just reports. I don't have time. Prince Harry says he warned Twitter CEO before US Capitol riot, labels Mexit term misogynistic. Prince Harry has said he warned Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey by email that his platform was allowing a coup to be staged a day before the deadly assault on the US Capitol by Donald Trump supporters. Harry was speaking by video on a panel called The Internet Lie Machine, organised by US technology and culture magazine Wired. Addressing the panel hosted by Wired's editor-at-large, Stephen Levy, Harry called misinformation on social media a global humanitarian crisis that can have a devastating impact on the masses. Asked if he had been given the chance to present his case to the heads of Facebook and Twitter, Harry responded, no, not directly, not personally. Jack Dorsey and I were emailing each other prior to January 6th, where I warned him that his platform was allowing a coup to be staged. That email he sent the day before, and it happened, and I haven't heard from him since. It says, Prince Harry says the issue isn't too big to solve. It's a small number of accounts causing a huge number of problems. More than 70% of the hate speech about my wife on Twitter can be traced to 50 accounts. Prince Harry also then said the term Mexit, a phrase used by the British press to describe the decision by him and his wife Meghan to quit royal duties, was a misogynistic term. He said the word was an example of online and media hatred. Maybe people know this, and maybe they don't, but the term Mexit was or is a misogynistic term. and it was created by a troll, amplified by royal correspondence, and it grew and grew and grew into mainstream media. Has he spoken to Katie Joy? But it began with a troll. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. This is actually serious, but it started with a troll. A study released in October by social media analytics service bot Sentinel identified 83 accounts on Twitter that it said were responsible for 73% of the hateful content and misinformation aimed at Meghan and Harry. Harry and his wife Meghan moved to California last year to lead a more independent life. Harry said part of the reason for their departure was the racist treatment of Meghan, whose mother is black, whose father is white, by British tabloid media. Really? I thought they loved her. So do you think Mexit is misogynistic? I'm sort of getting the impression, though, that Harry's discovering the grass isn't greener on the other side. And he's probably realising that he actually was pretty much protected. You don't think it's a misogynistic term? No, I don't know. Yeah. Don't stop laughing, everybody's laughing. So I'm not sure. All right. Let's go Sky News. I know everybody, this is really shocking, but it's no surprise that it's an anti-Andrews agenda, which is fine. You know, we're just gonna deal with it. And it's funny that Sky News is one of the few articles I've tried to find other articles about this, but it seems to be this is Sky News's baby, but that's okay. I always say, just remember the source. Key new signatories back QC's open letter against Andrews' unlimited pandemic powers. High-profile Melbourne legal figures have signed an open letter criticising Premier Daniel Andrews' pandemic bill, which they claim would give him unlimited power. Senior legal figures have joined 60 QCs in signing an open letter taking issue with Premier Daniel Andrews' pandemic bill, which they say would allow him to rule by decree. The letter went into circulation in October and recently welcomed signatories to the ranks of legal figures speaking out against the controversial legislation. These include Black Saturday Bushfire Royal Commissioner Jack Rush, QC, former Chief Crown Prosecutor Gavin Silbert, SC, and former IBAC Deputy Commissioner Andrew Kirkham, QC. I want to say, nobody of importance, but no, a few. So here's all the lawyers that have signed it, apparently. Most of them look like they're QCs. The Victorian Bar also repeated its call for the Andrews government to take the bill back to the drawing board, warning the legislation provided grossly insufficient parliamentary supervision. That in a 12-page submission to the Health Department's expert reference group, the bill, the legal fraternity outlined serious concerns about the bill, which passed the lower house last month. The legislation passed the Victorian Legislative Assembly 51 votes to 26 in late October after being introduced. Labor holds the majority in the lower house but must convince at least 3 crossbenchers to support the legislation in order for it to move past the upper house later in October. Now, for me, this is what a proper balanced parliament should be. Whether you've got that power in the lower house, doesn't matter. It's the upper house. The fact that they've got to deal with 3 crossbenchers to get the bill through means that there has to be, the upper house is the house of the review. You don't want a major party having the majority in the upper house. You want the crossbenchers or the independents having the balance of power. That is the way that you're going to get stuff done. It's I have no doubt that there will be revisions made in this because of the fact that they have to convince 3 crossbenchers to support. The letter claims the bill will allow Andrew's government to effectively rule the state of Victoria by decree for the foreseeable future. Well, we're still in a pandemic that, if you look all around the world, people are dying, like thousands, millions of people are dying a day. So the pandemic hasn't gone. The Victorian government would be free to make pandemic decisions without proper parliamentary oversight or the usual checks and balances on the executive power, the letter said. But we already have that under the emergency powers. Most states are still under their pandemic laws. Victoria is the only one that has that. I think Victoria is the only state that has a time limit on it that has to get it reviewed. WA is still in their emergency pandemic law. People forget this. New South Wales are still in their emergency pandemic. Most of the states in Australia are still under their emergency law. From my understanding of this bill, and I could be entirely wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected, is that this puts it in line with all the other states. That is my understanding. So, as far as I'm aware, every state is still under their emergency review. Victoria is the only one that has it limited. So, anyway, it is one thing to allow temporary rule by decree to deal with an unforeseen or extraordinary emergency in circumstances of extreme urgency. The letter also claimed the bill would give the state's health minister an unlimited and practically unreviewable power to make pandemic orders, which is what they've got now under the emergency rules. Yes, even the territories without a law. Yeah, my understanding is that while we're still under the pandemic, most of the states and territories, sorry, Peter, most of the states and territories are going to be in their pandemic laws. So Victoria has to actually take it to Parliament to get it renewed. So as I said, my understanding is that this law, what they're trying to bring in, makes it in line with all the other states. But anyway, QCs argue the low threshold for making declarations and the ongoing presence of COVID-19 meant a pandemic declaration could be enforced for the foreseeable future. Yes, well, but but see, my argument is on this: the pandemic is still worldwide, and they're saying the pandemic declaration could be enforced for the foreseeable future. The pandemic has not gone away all over the world, so it needs to be. But anyway, the Victorian Bar emphasised the need for checks and balances essential to democratic Westminster systems of government. As I said, New South Wales at the moment still under it, and the health minister and the chief health officer. The chief health officer calls the shots. Chief health officer in WA is calling the shots with the health minister. So Queensland. So as I said, well, they'd be better off doing that. And so this is my thing. So meanwhile, opposition leader Matthew Guy has made the extraordinary claim that the bill was the most dangerous piece of legislation we've ever seen to come before the Victorian Parliament. So, yes, and as I said, this law, from my understanding of it, puts it in line. There's the other question, Cal. What is the threshold? Who makes that decision? Who makes that decision? I think Victoria has a limit of 6 months, so every 6 months it has to go back to Parliament to be reviewed. This law, it'd be really stupid for Victoria to not be in a pandemic, an emergency situation, and every other state be in that situation. Yeah, but my point is that short order cook is that every other state is still in an emergency, is still in a state of emergency under the pandemic laws. Victoria's has to be reviewed. So that's my argument. The law that Victoria is trying to introduce actually makes it align with all the other states and territories. That's my understanding of the law. So, yes, and who declares that we're out of the pandemic? But anyway. So there's a couple of IBAC investigations. There's one currently undergoing with the Victorian Police. So IBAC investigates after police allegedly share photos of transgender former AFL coach Dani Laidley with vile comments. Dani Laidley shared her own photographs of her enjoying the Belang Cup last Saturday with her partner Donna. So Victoria's public sector watchdog. Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Short order. Yeah, that's you can have yeah. Everyone's entitled to everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's fine. I just think it's a bit of a. I think for Matthew Gladys, that's the worst piece of legislation. I think that's a bit of an overreach, particularly when you're just trying to make it in line with every other state. And what a waste to have to go back and put that through Parliament every 4 to 6 weeks. But anyway. So they're appealing for information after an unsolicited photo of former AFL coach Dani Laidley was allegedly shared by police officers along with transphobic comments. Photos of Miss Laidley was allegedly taken at the Bland Cup at Geelong at the Sydney Racecourse on Saturday, November 6th. IBAC is asking for any members of the public or police personnel who witnessed the photo being taken or has information about the photo in a text message being sent or received to contact IBAC. That's right. Oh, you're not stressing me out. Fiona Patton's the one that's likely to side with the government. So they're in trouble again. So the Victorian Police were in trouble when Laidley got arrested last year, when it first came out that Laidley was transgender, and there was photos taken around shared with the police. And now it looks like it's happened again. So Laidley's lawyer, Jeremy King, said he would lodge a complaint with the Professional Standards Command at Victoria Police. He said Miss Laidley was found the incident distressing. We don't know a lot about who took the photo, how widely it's been shared among Victoria Police, or we know that someone has taken the photo and it's been shared among Victorian Police members. Mr. King said he'd been told about comments accompanying the photo, which was described as pretty vile. It's not appropriate with Victoria Police. It's not appropriate within any organisation, but it's particularly not appropriate within Victoria Police and considering the history and context of this matter. So separate criminal and civil action was taken after photos of Miss Laidley inside a police station last year were allegedly leaked by police remains underway. Victoria Police Chief Commissioner Shane Patton had previously publicly apologised to Miss Laidley over last year's incident and described the alleged leak of the photos as a breach of her human rights. So it's happened again. What on earth is going on? So there's obviously some bad apples in there. So that's twice it's happened. I keep going to say, do you know how hard it is to say Dani and not the other name? I'm struggling. All right, let's go on to some Trump. I keep wanting to say, anyway. So Trump has failed in a bid to block probe into attacks on US Capitol and 10 White House aides subpoenaed. Why isn't KJ covering this? An investigation into January's deadly attack on the US Capitol will be able to access the White House records of former President Donald Trump, a federal judge has ruled. In a clear win for congressional oversight powers, Judge Tanya Chutkan gave permission to the House of Representatives Commission to obtain the potentially sensitive information. She rejected the argument by Mr. Trump's lawyers that telephone records, visitor logs, and other White House documents should be hidden from the committee. While broad, these requests and each of the other requests made by the committee do not exceed the committee's legislative powers, Judge Cochrane said in her decision. Mr. Trump had argued that the materials requested by the House committee were covered by a legal doctrine known as executive privilege that protects the confidentiality of some White House communications. He requested an injunction blocking the National Archives, the federal agency that holds his White House records, from complying with the committee's request for hundreds of pages of documents. Mr. Trump quickly filed a court notice indicating he had appealed the decision. The committee says it needs the requested materials to understand the role Mr. Trump may have played in provoking the riot on January 6th, which killed 5 people and saw more than 700 people face criminal charges. That's a big deal. US Representative Benny Thompson, chairman of the House of Representatives Select Committee, told CNN after John Cochrane's ruling, "I look forward to getting this information. I look forward to investigators going through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure our government was not weaponized against its citizens." So, the judge said Mr. Trump had not acknowledged the deference owed to President Joe Biden's determination that the committee could access the material. Mr. Trump's position that he may override the express will of the executive branch appears to be premised on the notion that his executive power exists in perpetuity. But presidents are not kings, and plaintiff is not president. Whoa! What a shade, hey? Presidents are not kings, and plaintiff is not president. Whoa, talk about hitting where it hurts. Earlier on Tuesday, House investigators issued subpoenas for 10 former officials who worked for Trump at the end of his presidency in an effort to find out more about what he was doing and saying before the riot. The subpoenas include demands for documents and testimony from ex-senior advisor Stephen Miller and former press secretary Kayleigh McEnany. I can't pronounce these names. It will bring the White House panel closer to Mr. Trump's inner circle. It comes a day after committee subpoenaed 6 other associates of former president who spread mistruths about widespread fraud in the election and strategized how to thwart Mr. Biden's legitimate victory. The Select Committee wants to learn every detail of what went on in the White House on January the 6th, and in days beforehand, the Mississippi Representative Benny Thompson said, the Democratic chairman of the panel. We need to know precisely what role former president and his aides played in efforts to stop the counting of electoral votes, and if they were in touch with anyone outside the White House attempting to overturn the outcome of the election. Mr. Trump gave an incendiary speech before the assault on the Capitol, repeating his claims that in November 2020, the election was stolen through widespread voter fraud. He urged supporters to go to the Capitol to fight like hell to stop the steal. His supporters stormed the Capitol in a failed bid to prevent Congress from formally certifying Mr. Biden's electoral victory. Mr. Biden, a Democrat and former vice president under Barack Obama, took office on January 20. So, is Trump gone? Trump's pulling the majority. Yeah, I don't know what he's going to do. There's been nothing other than the little. Yeah, do you know that ScoMo's been in Victoria, right? I don't know. We should have closed the border. We should have put no ScoMo's allowed. He's been in Victoria. Now, normally when the Prime Minister visits a state, they go and they meet with the Premier and they have some discussions and they talk about things. Guess what? ScoMo isn't meeting with the Premier. He's doing his own thing. Now, if I was the Premier, I'd be escorting him back over the border. No, it was opened short order. It's funny that the border reopened again between New South Wales and Victoria just before ScoMo was due to come in. He came first. But yes, we should have closed the border and put no ScoMos allowed. But it's a huge disrespect to go into a state and not have anything to do with the Premier of the state, in my opinion. Well, that is probably true as well. That is probably true. However, ScoMo can't hide forever. And us Victorians have very long memories, and there's an election coming up. Who let ScoMo out? Woof, 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 woof. Didn't New South Wales change their rules on returning travellers double vaxxed? Tell you what, if he ever knocked on my door, it looks like bird flu's back. So Japan culls 143,000 chickens to contain bird flu as more European countries record cases. Didn't we have bird flu years ago? Oh, Morrison and Andrews in a cage fight. My money would be on Andrews. Japan has detected its first bird flu outbreak for the 2020 winter season, with farms in the UK and Poland forced to mass cull by the disease. Japan's agriculture ministry confirmed a case of highly pathogenic avian influenza at the poultry farm in the northeast of the country, meaning about 143,000 egg-laying chickens were exterminated at the farm. Restricted zones up to 10 kilometres from the sites have been established. Last winter, Japan had its worst season of winter flu on the farms, and with more than 3 million chickens culled in a quarter of the country's prefecture is affected. Under current situation in Japan, we do not believe that there is any possibility of avian influenza being transmitted to humans through the consumption of chicken meat. But an increase in the number of people in China getting infected from bird flu this year is turning into a source of concern among epidemiological experts, especially as the world slowly recovers from COVID-19 pandemic. Oh no. China has reported 21 human infections with the H5N6 subtype of avian influenza in 2021 to the World Health Organization, compared to only 5 last year, with 6 dead and many others critically ill. Outbreaks of bird flu have been reported in recent days and weeks in Europe, with farms in Poland, the latest location for infections totaling 650,000 poultry. Poland is European Union's largest poultry producer and has reported several outbreaks of the highly pathogenic H5N1 bird flu at farms, according to the World Health Organization for Animal Health. 5 outbreaks, 4 at turkey fattening farms and 1 at a chicken broiler farm, were found in the eastern part of the country, while another was discovered at a turkey and goose farm in the western part of the country, the OIEC citing a report from Polish officials. Bird flu, most often carried from one country to another by migration of wild birds, have been spreading rapidly in Europe, raising concerns in the poultry industry after previous outbreaks led to culling of tens of millions of birds and international trade restrictions. In Britain, an outbreak of the highly pathogenic H5 bird flu was reported at a small poultry unit in central England, with all birds on the infected premises near Alcester in Warwickshire to be culled. Yeah, it looks like we could have more COVID poo too. It comes less than a week after the country declared a nationwide avian influenza prevention zone, ordering farms and bird keepers to toughen biosecurity measures. The H5N1 strain had previously been confirmed at small backyard flock of chickens in North Wales, among captive birds in East Scotland, and a bird rescue centre in central England. The French government last week put the entire country on high alert for bird flu, extending a requirement to keep all poultry flocks indoors. This comes after the Dutch authorities last month also ordered commercial farms to keep all flocks inside after bird flu was reported on a farm, while Germany, Italy and Denmark have recorded also Western outbreaks. I don't know where Memoir is. Make us go vegan. The fact that they're saying that it's spreading from China again sort of got me a bit concerned. Like, is that going to be the next pandemic? I'm very happy to not have to leave my home again, to be honest with you. The big bird was 6 when I was 6. Oh dear. Alrighty. Well, and that's the thing. All the viruses mutate, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying about this pandemic is that we're seeing it again. It just keeps, spreading and mutating. Okay. So my understanding was it was deposition day, and there was also a reply to the lawsuit. I don't know. One was due one day, the next one was due the next day. This is Katie Joy giving an update. Yes, she gave an update. If she really she could have done something very, very nice and given everybody, put the copy of the lawsuit or her response for everybody to see. She knows everybody wants to know it, but she wrote this. For people who have been asking and want to know about Todd Chrisley's lawsuit against me, here's an update. Todd Chrisley started a lawsuit against me in October alleging defamation, which I disagree with. I think she's the only one that I think she's the only one that disagrees, because most people would agree that what she did was defamatory. My opinion. Yes, I'm still sticking to your schedule, Dom. KJ's always been last. So when I get to KJ that we're getting near the end. My attorneys disagreed with his complaint as well. So yesterday, they filed a motion to dismiss, arguing that his claims all regard statements that are truth, opinion, or fair reporting of facts, and that as a public figure, he's unable to show defamation based on his complaint. But saying that somebody's gay is not truth, fair reporting, or opinion. She implied it was truth. The complaint and the motion documents are public and can be obtained from the court. Due to ongoing legal matters, we will not be making any further comments. Thank you, everyone, for your ongoing support. And then all her little stands go, keep doing what you're doing, Katie Joy. Keep at it, girl. Wait, what? How did I miss this? I had no idea he had a lawsuit against you. Wow, keep being you. Keep being you, Katie Joy. See, Katie, go. Go, Katie, go. I wasn't here for whatever you said about him. I'm sad I missed it. Assuming it's been removed. Well, Jem Brasky, go to Without a Crystal Ball Reddit and you'll see it all there. The other thing that's come out is allegedly that she's not following Lindsay Chrisley anymore. That they've broken up because Lindsay has denied knowing Katie Joy and has denied any knowledge. Well, that's a very good question. Very good question. And I don't think we'll ever get a logical answer to that either. So, but how can she say the statement that she made about Chrisley about his sexuality was opinion, truth, or fair reporting? It was neither of those. It was defamatory. And whether he's a public figure or not, nobody deserves to have their sexuality questioned. And I know she's done it with the Duggars as well. How many Duggars? She's implied. She's implied that there are Duggars that are gay. At the end of the day, who cares? The world's not going to end. But to make implications about somebody's sexuality, in my opinion, is defamatory. But do you reckon? What's everybody's thoughts? Yeah, but it doesn't exist though, is it? Who said? See, this is the thing. I don't know whether. With your own business. Well, that's right. But nobody has a right to speculate on the sexuality of anybody else. Nobody. And for that alone, she deserves to be done. Unless somebody's come out and said their sexuality, that's different. But if they don't, you have no right to speculate. So let's see. Okay, to cause some chaos. Okay, see your short article. Yeah, that's all right. Well, actually, she did talk about that once. Apparently, he has trouble firing, apparently, allegedly. And that's come from Katie Joy herself. She said it. And I think Todd wrote on a comment on T-Spiracy's thread that he fires blanks as well. So, they've been very open about that. Oh, dear me. Oh. Sorry for the faults. Oh. Oh boy. You just made mine villanova. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh. So those that have been around in the community, or the Katie Joy, following Katie Joy, would probably be able to confirm that better than me about the fact that what she said about Toad. But everybody has said to me that I see it come up quite a bit. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, it won't be long. Okay, so somebody has checked this. So this is the Without a Crystal Ball Reddit. Thank you to the wonderful team that's in the Reddit. Did the deposition not go well for KJ today? She stopped following best friend Lindsay Chrisley. So she's stopped following Lindsay. Somebody says, does KJ want to marry? I tell you, this is going to be, this is getting gross, okay? Well, she must be getting desperate plan to create. She could have done us all a favour, though, and just posted it for us. It says, does KJ want to marry Cody? Cody Brown over on Cameo scouting for a new wife. His flirting here is so extra, wifey material. And she's hashtagged marry me. She's put the hashtag marry me. Oh no. Actually, he does look a little bit like Toad. Okay, and then there's someone says, is KJ at the deposition or is Toad posting for her? KJ began posting at 10 a.m, but KJ should have been in a deposition since 9. Is Toad earning his keep, or is KJ lying and pretending to be KJ? She would have to be, wouldn't she? As far as I know, nobody's got the documents yet. But she could have at least given us the job. She could have given us all the information. She could have scheduled her posts. Yes, she could have scheduled her posts. That is true. I schedule some of my posts, but you know. You don't think she was there? So you don't think she was deposed? I guess we'll find out. Well, in fact, it may have been done via Zoom, and she could have been she could have actually have been sitting there, like I could be sitting here and I could be on my phone doing stuff and paying attention, and the motion was filed. No, but we're talking about the deposition. She was deposed. She was supposed to be meeting Mr. Chrisley. So she could have done that. I know. Well, that's what I'd like to see. Sorry, dispose. Okay, depose. Oh, we've only just begun. The last one she was involved in went on for 12 months. Nearly went on forever. Well, it felt like forever. So, yeah, we're in for a long ride. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night, and I'm going to end. So today, there's just a footage from Twitter that shows to me one of my favorite prime ministers because of the entertainment value. Yes, I believe that. I heard that he was going through Roadhog's work history, and checked out the LinkedIn. So in the 80s, as I was growing up, we had I don't know. Paul Keating was a politician when I was growing up, and I loved him because he was a master linguist. He knew how to rile up the opposition. He had a quick wit, and he would have you in fits of laughter. And this is doing the rounds at the moment. And this is one of the ones doing the rounds at the moment. And I want to end with this because this has given me hours of entertainment. Yes, I know I'm petty, but I miss this type of banter. He was famous for saying, "I'm going to do you slowly" to an opposition leader. Yeah, he just had a quick wit. Anyway, so this is, and he would do it deliberately. So watch this.
say that people who don't agree with everything you say are somehow racist, bigoted, and immoral. This is a salmon that actually jumps on the hook for you.
So it was the 90s. Yeah, he was.
In fact, there's 3 or 4 of them. There's a whole little group of them there.
I'll play it again.
Down a bow's a fresh start. How are you going out there, Curly? Oh, darling. You are one of the most anxious, self-righteous people I have come across. Always preaching as though to say that people who don't agree with everything you say are somehow racist, bigoted, and immoral. This is a salmon that actually jumps on the hook for you. In fact, there's 3 or 4 of them. There's a whole little group of them there.
There you go. So anyway, so that's what we're ending with. Yeah, Downer was looking down. I forgot that he was opposition leader at one point in time. They went through a few of them. Keating was Prime Minister. But he got the bite. That's right. That's what he did. He went for the bite. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Yes, I know it's early. I've got to do a few things before I have to go to work. So thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button. Apparently people are getting unsubscribed from channels. So, YouTube are playing games at the moment. So I've seen other content creators talk about that. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you again tomorrow. So have a good one.